Alright, today we are going to replace the rear pads and rotors on a 98 Lexus LS400. Here's all the parts and tools that we are going to use for this job. To start off, we got the rear rotors, we got the pads, and then also on this vehicle it has a wear sensor, and basically you don't necessarily need to replace this, but on our vehicle the warning light went off, so we know that the sensor is worn and we're going to need to put in a new one, because this vehicle has a dash light that says brake wear, that will warn you that your brakes are low, and that's because it's tripped by this sensor right here. But once it's tripped, then it's no good, so you got to put another one. Let's see, so for the tools, let's see, we got our ratchets, 3/8, 1/2 inch with a flex head. Those are useful. 17mm socket, 14mm socket. Let's see, when you're taking out the bolts for the sliding pins, you need to brace. There's a 17mm that you'll need to hold so that you can lock the two together. There's the 14 and the 17, and it's actually kind of a tight fit, so what I did is I ground down one of my 17mm wrenches so that it fits into the slot there. Or another option, one of these slim bicycle mechanic wrenches, 17mm. Then also, to get the screws out that hold the rotor on, a little impact tool is helpful, or you can also get an impact screwdriver that utilizes a hammer to impact the screw and knock it loose. Then we got our caliper compressing tool that'll push the cylinder back into the caliper, and then silicone paste for the sliding pins, and anti-seize brake lube for everything else. And I think that's about it. Okay, so I'm gonna remove the caliper by taking out the 14mm bolts here. Okay, and then you can see here's our old pads. Save these little springs here because your new pads, I doubt, will come with them. That one's not too bad. See, this is the one that set off the sensor right there. It wears through and breaks the wire, and then you got to put a new one. And there's a little clip that holds it in, so you have to pry that out. Or actually, we're throwing it away. What am I talking about? So we're gonna get rid of that. And then here's where the sensor connects up here. Actually, I'm not sure how I remove this one. There we go. And then it's hooked up into a little bracket there. That was probably bad sound, I was echoing. So you can just take the whole thing out, toss it. Then let's see, we need to remove the bracket, the caliper bracket there. That's with the 17mm socket. Let's see. Let's see if we can get this thing. There we go. That's why it pays to have a big ratchet. Because in this situation, impact tool's not gonna even fit in there, so. Oh, and on that one, looks like we're gonna need a short socket. Oh, this one's tough. There we go. Yeah, that one's off. Okay, then we gotta get this rotor off, which is held in with a couple of screws. Actually, we did a test where we took one out. These ones seem to be stripping out, so ooh, that one's not bad. The other one was messed up. And then of course make sure your parking brake's off so you can get the rotor out. There we go. And there's the actual parking brake right inside, because this rotor actually has a drum inside of it. So when you go to put this back together, you might need to adjust the parking brake as well. We'll see how that goes. We'll check the adjustment when we put the new rotor on. So the rotors, they come in the package, usually, I think pretty much all the time, coated in like an oil to keep them from rusting. Because these, I mean, this is just bare steel, so it rusts really easily. And so we gotta clean it up. So we don't want the oil on our friction surfaces. That would be no good. So I'm just using my handy gallon of acetone that I got from the beauty shop. Actually, the wholesale beauty store. Because they sell it for like $6 versus buying a little tiny bottle for like, how much is it? Like $3 for a little tiny bottle. So, and I use it all the time for stuff like this and other household uses, so I figured that was a good buy. Alright, so we're gonna clean this up. Yeah, you can see the dirt and whatever that is that they put on there. Clean up real good. Okay, so now we gotta put it on the vehicle and check to see how our clearance is for our parking brake shoes. Our parking brakes, well, we're out of brake cleaner, but you can clean them up. You don't need to adjust them. It does have a little buildup of brake dust. This one's really not that bad. So we're gonna go ahead and put on our rotor. On this setup, it's kind of crazy. It's all these holes, but the larger holes are the ones that line up with the studs. So then you gotta
talk about the brakes.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna get to. But yeah, and as part of this setup, you do have the parking brake in there, and what we found is that it's a servo type and it's self-adjusting. So you might feel that the rotor's loose when you go and first put it on, but then you can just screw it down, and then when you go and apply the parking brake, it'll actually self-adjust and you don't need to do anything else. Not all cars are like that, but this one, we got lucky and it has the setup, so makes it easy. And I'm just tightening these by hand because they seem to be very soft metal and they're easy to strip, so be careful about that. Alright, so now we just need to put it all back together. Let's see, I'm gonna put my bracket. You know what? I can see rust starting to form on the bolts, so I'm gonna put some of the brake lube / anti-seize compound. Just put it on the threads, so I don't want these to get locked up. I can see why this one was giving me trouble because it has more rust, so it was resisting backing out. I need to get some new brake lube. All right. There we go. Gotta get in the right position. There we go. Okay, let me tighten these down. Alright, it'd be a good idea to torque these down, although I'm just going to use my built-in torque settings. that I have. Where's my deep socket? Alright, that should be good. Oh, the other thing we haven't gotten to yet is we didn't lube our sliding pins. But we can still just take those right out. Still pretty well lubed, but we'll clean them up and re-lube. There's my rag. Yeah, this is something I think a lot of people overlook. You definitely want to keep these pins well lubed because if they get dried up, they will end up sticking, rusting, sometimes getting frozen up in the caliper bracket, and then you have to replace the whole thing. Your pads wear out prematurely or unevenly, and that's all bad. So definitely want to take care of this part of it. Yeah, this one is pretty dry. So just put a nice coat on there. Make sure it's well covered. And just slide it back into the boot. I like to leave the boot on there, and you can just kind of wiggle it in. And when I take it out, I just peel the boot back. Slide the pin out, because it's easy. It seems to be easier for me anyways to push the bolt or the pin back into the boot versus getting the boot back onto the bracket. So here's the trick to getting the sensor that we found is well, the new one doesn't come with a retaining clip. I don't know, maybe some will, but this one did not. So we got to reuse this little thing. And want to be careful not to damage it, so I'm just using this little tool to pry it out carefully. There we go. Don't want to bend it all up because we want it to work to retain the new sensor. So yeah, that's about it. Oh, and there's how the sensor goes out. Boom. But yeah, you can see right here, this is where it's actually, if you look at it closely, there's a wire there and it wore through. And that's how it trips the light. We got our clip. We got our new pad. Let's see. That one was on the inside. Let's make sure we got the pad set up correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and compare. So okay, we got a same pad with the mounting point in the same place. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer the clip and put in our new sensor. Alright, so just gotta pop the wire in and then slide it back, and then put in our retaining clip and just slides on. You should feel it with little resistance so it actually stays in. You gotta be careful, if you bent it and it's loose, it might just fall out, so watch out for that. So the other thing is, well actually I think I already threw it away, but these brake pads came with a little packet of grease, which they never give you enough. But the packet of grease, which we're going to just use our can of bulk amount brake lube there, and you actually just need to, what you need to do before you put them in is take the shims off. This one seems to be a little stuck, but sometimes aftermarket shims are glued, bonded on, something like that, but on these ones, although they feel sticky, I don't know if that's supposed to be like that, that you are supposed to put a little bit of lube here and then put the shim back on so that you don't, so you avoid brake squeaks and noises. And my lube is running low, so I'm just going to put some on the back of the pad. Maybe a little more would be good. And be careful, don't get this stuff on the friction surface. That's also not good. Then just put your shim back in place then you're ready to install it, and just repeat the process with all of the pads. So now we're going to stick our pads back in. And you gotta clip in the sensor. There you go. Just kind of wiggled it into place. Plug it in. There we go. That one is a tight fit, but hey, sometimes that happens when dealing with aftermarket. But it works. And so now that's what's gonna get our light to go off on the dash or go away. Slide the pads into place, and then we'll do our last step, which is right before putting the caliper back, we need to compress it. Oh, and don't forget to put your little brake hardware pieces back into place as well. They shouldn't push on it too hard where the pads pop out. You should be okay with that. Okay, so on this one, on some rear brakes you do need a tool to thread the piston back in, but on this one it has the parking brake drum, so we can just use a simple tool to compress the piston back in. And let's see, what I like to do is kind of flip it upside down and just set an old brake pad in there, and then you just gotta adjust your tool and set it in there. It fits in basically like a brake pad would. There we go. So then you just crank it, and it might want to come back out, so probably want to hold the pad and the tool down because they want to twist their way out of position. And basically you can just compress it all the way in. The boot will go back with it where it should. Just be careful not to damage it. Okay. Oh, and the boot didn't go in. Just when I say that. But should be able to just push it in carefully. This one doesn't want to cooperate, of course. Oh, I think I got it. Okay. So that should be okay now. Then we just need to drop it into place. You might need to push your pins in. There we go. There you go. So hold the pins down, get your bolts in. Okay. Then we'll just tighten those down. Oh, this is where that skinny wrench comes into play, because sometimes this pin will want to spin, although it looks like it's holding. But if this pin spins and you don't feel the nut or the bolt snugging up, you can hold it with the slim 17mm wrench. Oh, that one's good. Oops. Blooper. Don't put that in the video. Alright, so those are tightened down. And then, let's see, the last thing would be make sure and pump the brake pedal to push the piston back out, because you don't want to go driving the car off and the brake pedal sinks to the floor. So make sure and do that. Oh, also watch the level in your brake master cylinder. it shouldn't be overflowing. But if it does, if somebody has topped off the brake fluid before you go and compress the piston, you might need to remove some of the brake fluid. So be careful for that, because if the brake fluid overflows, then it gets on paint in the engine compartment and it makes a mess. And yes, brake fluid eats through paint. And so let's see. Then the other side's going to be the same, although there isn't a sensor over there. So that's actually going to be easier. And I think that's about it.